Hey everybody, Miss Dietrich here. We're taking a look at our cookie task. The directions are: complete the table with the correct ratios of each ingredient for doubling the recipe and taking half of the recipe. And if you're actually interested in making these cookies as is, because it does serve 48, this is the website that you can go to for the recipe, but it is included in this document. In fact, here is the recipe for the document. Now, some of you might be wondering, why would you ever take half of a recipe? Because wouldn't we want all 48 of those cookies? This has actually happened to me. I went through the cupboard and I realized that I didn't have enough of one ingredient. So let's just use the hypothetical example. If you don't have enough of the chocolate chips and you don't want the cookies to not have that delightful chip to cookie ratio. So let's say you only had 1 cup of chocolate chips, which is half of 2. That would mean you would have to take half of everything else. Now the other hypothetical scenario is you're having a huge party and 48 cookies isn't enough and you want to double the recipe. Now on the next page, there's a table that you're going to fill in, and we're going to pretend you're in that situation of needing to double the recipe and also finding half of the recipe. So let's start with doubling. What does double really mean? It means multiply by 2. If we're dealing with fractions, recall that we always turn any mixed numbers into improper fractions. So 2 1/4 is actually equal to 9/4. And if we're going to double that, we're really doing 9/4 times 2, which is the same as 2 over 1. And we might take advantage of the fact that we can pre-reduce here. So 2 goes into that once, 2 goes into that twice. So that really equals 9/2. And if we rethink 9/2 as a mixed number and do 9 divided by 2 over here, that's going to go in 4 times. We get the 1 left over. So we're really talking about 4.5 cups of flour, 4.5 cups. All right, so baking soda. If we're doing 48 cookies, we need 1 tablespoon. We just have to take that and double it. 1 times 2 would end up being 2 teaspoons. 2 teaspoons of baking soda. All right, so that's our final answer here, and this is our final answer here. All right, over here for a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, how do you double that? You do 1/2 times 2. 1/2 times 2. And that would cancel out. That would cancel out. So we're really talking about 1 over 1, which is equal to 1 teaspoon of salt. All right, so hopefully you can figure out how to finish up the rest of this table, because really you're just taking each ingredient and you're multiplying it by 2. Let's talk about what if you have to find half. So if we had to do 2 1/4 times 1/2. Now remember, timesing by 1/2, that's the same thing as dividing by 2. This and this are the same thing. So whichever one makes the most sense to you, because sometimes it'll be mental math, that's what you want to do. But in this case, I think it's going to be better if we take the improper fraction equivalent of 2 1/4, and we're going to multiply that by 1/2. And let's see what we get. All right, there's not really any reducing opportunity. So here we get the 9, and here we get the 8. And if we rethink that as a mixed number, 9 divided by 8, that would go in once. So we'd get 1 1/8. You need 1 1/8 cups of flour for halving the recipe. All right, so if we take half of 1, 1 times 1/2, that's going to be 1/2, right? 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. All right, so for each ingredient, just what it is for 48, just either multiply that by 1/2 or divide by 2 and put your answer in the box. So finish up, go all the way down to the end of the table, and then upon completion, you're going to go ahead and submit this, and we'll take a look at what you came up with.